Well, you're in for a treat today. I had the opportunity to sit down with Anna David. She's the founder of Light Hustler, and she is the founder of All the Right Moves. It's a coaching program where she teaches people how to get their book into the hands of an agent and all the work that's involved in that. She's going to go deep into what's involved there. She is the author of 2 novels and 4 nonfiction books, and she's got more books in the works. We also go deep into Anna's story, and she shares some really personal details that I think you're going to really connect with. She's also going to share some of her favorite tools in recovery and what she knows for sure. So here we go with Anna David.
Here, we want to show you what's possible in the world of sobriety. We introduce you to the various tools, programs, and resources available because there are way more options than you may even realize. We want you to find the one that works for you.
And we do it through people. People who share their pathway to recovery and will help you find your path to freedom. Because getting sober can feel hard enough. You don't have to do it alone. I'm Sarah Roberts.
And I'm Roger DeVoe, and this is Sobriety Starts Here.
I am so excited to be welcoming today to Sobriety Starts Here, Anna David. Welcome, Anna. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me here. It's fun. I'm excited. I thank you for putting up with me. It took me a minute to get organized.
I am happy to put up with you. Oh my gosh, you're a dream come true. I'm happy to have you here with me. So let's talk about it right away. Let's dig into your coaching program called All the Right Moves. I want you to tell people, what is All the Right Moves? Who is it for? And what is the experience?
So it is a coaching program where I take 10 writers at a time through the process of launching their writing careers or growing their writing careers, and then writing and selling a book proposal. It is not targeted solely towards people in recovery, but I will tell you that 99.9%, I have had one person not in recovery who's done it, and she did great, but that's the audience. You don't have to be in recovery to do it, but I believe we all have stories to tell, and addicts in recovery tend to have some pretty juicy stories to tell. And I believe that by sharing our dark, we not only find our light in terms of our spiritual light and our funny light, but each person who does it has the ability to impact 10 more people and 100 more people. And it just sort of, when I got sober, there was nobody out there doing this. Carrie Fisher,
Mm-hmm.
Carrie Fisher was doing it, but she was alone.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the time that I've been doing this, I've watched, there was no such thing as a recovery blog when I put out my first book. And now there's hundreds and thousands, and it's amazing. And everybody's so out and proud. And I am there to help them share their stories. And what's cool, so I take 10 people at a time. It's a 6-month program. They get access to me the whole time, and then Kristen McGinnis, who works for me, and she's also a best-selling author of 6 books. So she's guiding them through the process. I'm guiding them through the process. And then after the process is over, people have 1 month to complete their book proposal, and then they turn them in to me. Kristen and I look at them, and we arrange a meeting for the book that we think has the best chance of selling. It's not even necessarily the best proposal. It's just the one that looks the best for the marketplace. And we set up a meeting for that writer with my agent, a lit agent in New York, and a publisher. And what has happened, and is not a guarantee, is that in the last 2 groups, that book has sold. The publisher has acquired the book.
Wow.
So that's really cool. I don't know when people are seeing this. I mean, the thing is, there's never a bad time to contact me about it, because even though we're full right now, I am allowing people to reserve their spaces we're going to launch again in fall of 2018. So, but if people are interested in that, they should contact me as soon as they see that. But I can only run 1 group at a time.
And is it 10 people because you found that that's sort of the sweet spot? That's the right number?
Yeah, and actually it's a lot. I had thought it was going to be 20 people, but we do webinars where I want everyone to have 5 to 10 minutes to talk about where they're at and get feedback. And that is completely unmanageable if you have more than 10 people. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of the perfect number.
Now, you wrote 2 novels, Party Girl and Bought, and those were novels, not memoirs. In your coaching program, are you really pulling out the memoir in people? It's really about the stories that they've lived through?
Yes. And it's such a good question, because when I wrote Party Girl, I had this great idea, which was, addiction and recovery memoirs, they get so boring when the person gets sober. I want to make fun of myself. I want to talk And I thought the only way I could do that was in a novel. I do think it's easier in a novel. I mean, there are hilarious addiction memoirs like Permanent Midnight, but I regret that decision so much because they didn't know. My agent was like, sure, okay. We sold it right away. It was like a very easy sell. And then I felt that the book would have done better and been taken more seriously had it not been a novel, because it can't get on any of those books about addiction recovery lists because it's it's a fun novel. So yeah, and the thing is, it's just a lot easier in the marketplace and in terms of agents and publishers to sell a nonfiction book. So if you are interested in writing a novel, my program is not the one for you. It is for people who want to do their memoirs or we had somebody do a relationship book. We have people, they don't have to be their personal story, but it has to be nonfiction.
Okay, understood. So walk us through the process a little bit. I know you said that you do webinars and you're really one-on-one, people have access to you, but tell me, if I enroll in your program, what happens next?
I love it. So if you were to enroll now, well, now it's June and the program starts in September, and this is new. What happens is I'm contacted all year long. I say, oh, I'll let you know when I launch. And then by the time I launch, they're gone. And then I open it up again, I fill it, and then they email me back and I'm like, sorry, you have to wait 6 months. So what I'm doing now is I'm allowing people to reserve their space. So let's say you say, everyone has to talk to me. It's application only. So we talk, we say, yes, you're good for it. You reserve your space and you get access to the first month's modules, and you have those until we launch. But if you were to start the way most people start, you join up, you get access to, so there's 28 videos and then 12 PDFs. And so the PDFs are like, here's a sample pitch letter. You get my 5 sample book proposals that I sold. And you get in our Facebook group, and our Facebook group has I do interviews with agents and editors and that kind of thing. You get Kristen. So you start having consultations with Kristen. You start getting her feedback on editing, and you get an accountability partner, which is someone else in the group that I match you with who is compatible in terms of many things. I mean, I'm not meeting the people, so I'm doing it based on our conversations, like, oh, you're roughly the same age, your projects are similar, you're sober around the same amount of time. So I connect people like that. And then our first webinar is usually the first Sunday of that month. And that's it. You get access to you could watch, so it's divided into months. So the first month is, here's how you launch your writing career, and it's how to write an essay, how to sell that essay that happened in post, how to put that essay on your website. And then we get right into the next month is your chapter summary and your sample chapter. And so the next 4 months are just breaking down what goes in a book proposal. And then the last month is how to get an agent. So yeah, so you could go watch all 28 videos on day one if you wanted to, but I highly recommend doing it the way it's set up.
Yeah, and so it's sounding like you really walk us through where we're going to get to the point where we have our book proposal to present. And then what happens out? Have you kind of gone along the way teaching us how to actually write a book, to get that book written?
No, and that is project number 2, because, well, you have to do a sample chapter or 2. You're going to finish this. Your book is not going to be done. But here's the thing, what people don't know, and I didn't know at one point, you can't write a memoir and go send it to a publisher. They will only read a book proposal. Mm-hmm. So if your dream is to have somebody publish your book, you have to do a proposal. If you're doing nonfiction, fiction, you write the whole book. But if you're doing nonfiction, so if people know, oh my God, I don't want a publisher to ever acquire my book, I know I want to do self-publishing, this is not it. That being said, if you finish, you were not the one who sold your book. You've now got the perfect guide. You've got your 2 chapters, and then you've got your chapter outline, and then you've got your marketing plan, which is a huge part of this. And that sort of leads me to my other course the coaching course that I'm developing now, is audience building for writers, because the problem is we have this amazing work and then people don't know about it because we're relying on other people. So it's all about, and so I teach people at social media, for better or worse, newsletter lists, which are so important, even though they're so boring. Getting on podcasts, getting on TV, getting quoted in publications, all of that. So it's all one big stew to get our stories out there.
It sounds fantastic. And it's so true that we feel like the work is writing the book. And we think if we want to write a book, we have to sit down and duct tape our legs to a desk and just get the work done. And yet we don't realize really the work is in honing that proposal and really doing a good job at the front end. And then we have the time then, once it's been accepted, now we can go and keep moving through, knowing that we're on the right track, that it's something that will be read.
Yes, because I think so many of us, me included, have these experiences of sitting down in front of the computer and pouring our hearts out and having no idea if we were doing the right thing. Nobody knows. And there's all this information out there, often by people who have not been successful at doing it. Right. And so it's really easy to get confused and overwhelmed. And lots of addicts have that imposter syndrome, like, who the hell do I think I am? Mm-hmm. Why would anybody care what I have to say? And, so there's a lot of breaking that down.
Well, and certainly somebody who does know what's going on, somebody who's written 2 novels, 4 nonfiction books. You've also done some collaborations along the way as well. So you are definitely, Anna David, the person that we need to look to that can really help us to get this work done, because it's not easy. And there are a lot of, there's so much behind the scenes that we just don't even realize when we're starting out.
So if you are interested, well, first go check out the site, which is alltherightmoves.net. Then you must email assistant@Anna David. Then we have a consultation and we talk. A lot of people are not appropriate for it. I can tell from the phone. A lot of people, so I have different levels that people can go to if they're not appropriate for the coaching program. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with their writing. It just means they're not the right fit for this. So it really, we gotta talk on the phone before I can even break that down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally makes sense. So it's really customized to each person. I'm sensing that, you really want to make sure that it's the right fit.
It's once you're in the coaching program, it's not custom. It's for all 10 get the same thing. But until you make it there, it really does depend.
Got it. All right. You mentioned that you sort of regret not having written a memoir. Instead, you wrote Party Girl, the novel. Do you have visions or dreams of doing that, of writing a true memoir one day?
Well, technically, my 4th book was a memoir, but it's such a misstatement because I took this book, Sex and the Single Girl, from 1965, and it was HarperCollins had this idea that they wanted me to do the new Sex and the Single Girl book. And I'm like, I don't even know how to live my own life, let alone go tell lots of people how to do it. So why don't I take the original book, that this is this Helen Gurley Brown book, and try it out as like a lark, because it was around the time of Julie and Julia and Eat, Pray, Love and all these, like, I spent a year. And so...
And by the way, this book is Falling for Me, I think you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I call it a memoir, but it's not a memoir. Here's the other thing, though. My life is not that interesting. I may have made it into 6 books and thousands of stories. It is not. It is basic. I'm a firm believer in it is not what we have, it is how we tell it. Because there are people with crazy stories who can't tell those stories to save their lives. So I wouldn't have anything to put in a memoir that I haven't already, shared with the masses a million times. But my new fantasy, and it's going to actually come true because I'm taking the steps, is I am getting the rights to Party Girl back from HarperCollins. I mean, I'm sure HarperCollins, you're not watching this. My agent is in the process of doing it, and I'm going to re-release it on my own.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah, because it's what happened with it, my publisher everything went wrong with it, and I love it. It's the only book of mine I ever would recommend reading. So I want more people to see it.
Yeah, it's an awesome read. Oh my gosh, I have it on my Kindle, so I can't show it here, but yeah, it's an incredible book. Oh my gosh, well done. Proud of that. I'm sure you are. And I love that, like I said, you are really the person that people can go to that really understands what not to do. And isn't that sometimes so much more important than what to do? Like, there are mistakes that have been made along the way, but that's where we learn and grow. And then you're able to pass that along to us. So yes. It's huge. It's huge, and it's All the Right Moves with a W. We will certainly add those links below this video, so anyone looking for Anna can find her there. And also, I know that Light Hustler, that's a big part of your world, and we can lead everybody to Light Hustler as well. You do storytelling, and obviously your coaching is wrapped up in that too. So
yes,
let's get into your story. I don't know if everybody knows sort of the background to your life, and I would love for you to dive into it a little bit to give us a bit more sense of who is Anna David and how did you get to become Anna David that we know today?
Well, okay, with the caveat that I just told you it's not that interesting. So you know that going in. Yeah, so, so let's see. I am somebody who, I come from a dysfunctional family, very, very mentally ill father, and I did not understand that for a very, very, very long time. And it's definitely not quite acknowledged, and it's that murky weirdness where how there's a therapeutic term for this, when you're the person, the truth teller in the family, you're the identified problem.
Yeah.
And so that was very much my story, and so I just assumed I was completely fucked up and insane. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
Yeah, you are. Yep.
But my dad used to always tell me I was a monster whenever I had emotions.
Yeah.
And if I cried, he would laugh. And so I had all these ideas that I was a monster. And I'm an incredibly sensitive person, like all of us. I have a lot of deep emotions. I'm actually doing trauma work right now, so this is really close to me. I had the breakthrough EMDR session the other day, so it's pretty insane. But at the same time, it's all relative. I know people with far worse stories, but this was mine.
Yeah.
And
so you were born and raised in what area of the world, and how old were you when you knew that there were issues with your father?
So Marin County up north, my dad was busted for embezzlement when I was 16. But again, it was like, he's right, everyone's wrong. You're wrong for having, it was all over the paper. Like, you're wrong for having a reaction to it. So
can I just remind you that you said your story was boring, and I'm like, this doesn't sound boring.
It's that part, I guess, isn't, but so I, it's so weird. I don't know if you have this experience, but the truth is really complicated. Some days I'm 1,000% sure now, I'm in my 40s, I know that he's mentally ill, and now it's being acknowledged by other members of the family. But they were so, my family was so, kept telling me I was the crazy one for so long that I don't even know when I actually realized. Oh God, why is that happening? So yeah, and I loved drinking and doing drugs, and I was like a fun party girl until I wasn't, and then I was alone.
How old were you? How old were you when you first tried alcohol or drugs?
12. And then I did coke at 16, but not a lot. And then I became addicted to coke around the age of 27, I would say, and Ambien. I liked pain pills, but those were not my first choice. And then I got sober at 29. So you did?
Yeah.
It's a good age for it, right?
It's a good age. It's right before. I mean, mine was a DUI. Mine's not that exciting of a story either. I got a DUI, super ashamed of that, and decided that was the end for me.
Where do you live?
In Ottawa, Canada.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know how I didn't get a DUI, but I didn't get a DUI. But so, yeah, so it just seems like a good age. It's not too young. It's not too old. It's Saturn, whatever, rising, whatever they say about being 30. And so, yeah, I got sober. It was the last thing on earth I wanted to do. And I was one of these people, I really, really, really respond to 12-step. It is tailor-made for this brain of mine, because I have always healed by writing. I have always shared all my secrets with everybody. I have always been looking for 12 steps for how to live. Thank God there are these steps. My dad used to tell me the rule for living was the golden rule: the one who makes the gold makes the rules. I had no idea. I thought the only rule was try to go to Harvard, Oh
my gosh, so many similarities among our lives. I was also called Monster when I was a child, and we were both 29, and same thing. My mother would say, he who pays gets to decide. And it was like, this doesn't feel right. I want to ask you, can you share your rock bottom story, if there was one, or when was it that you decided that you were finally going to get sober?
Well, here's the thing. It's interesting because I always hesitate with this by sharing this part. I only share it sometimes, and it was even in a book, and I felt so weird about it that in the second edition they took it out. But that thing you just said about that commonality, about the monster thing and the mother thing, I'm just gonna go with it. What actually happened is I got pregnant. And getting pregnant wasn't surprising. I was totally like, safe sex, what? And I got pregnant by a guy who was the most irritating person I'd ever known. And he was somebody who, I was like the opposite of a Coke whore. I don't know how graphic I can get, but this isn't graphic. But like, I always bought the Coke. And that guy, nobody wanted to do Coke around me anymore because I was very depressing and depressed, but he would. And so I figured, well, he'll do my Coke. I'll sleep with him, sure. So it was like the opposite of Coke whoredom. And I got pregnant, and I went in to have the abortion, and I had this crazy thing, which is, oh my God, I put my arms down so that they could like take blood. And I had this crazy thought, which was, thank God there are no track marks there. Mm-hmm. I'd never shot drugs in my life. I had done heroin, but I'd never shot them. And I was like, that's a really crazy thought. And it was like, that terrible Gwyneth Paltrow Sliding Doors movie. I felt like I was getting this, like, that could be my life. Mm-hmm. That will be my life. Mm-hmm. And I had that thought. And then, and then after the surgery, I stayed high on the pain pills that they gave me for like a few days. And one of those days, like, I don't know, 3 days later, I woke up and I thought, like, I can't do this anymore. I had been so depressed for so long. And I called my mom and I said, I just had an abortion and I'm addicted to Coke. And she said, put your cats in the car. I had two. Come home. LA did this to you. And then I was in rehab the following Monday. Wow. So, but it wasn't like a, it had just been like a slow not wanting to live for a long time. It wasn't some big dramatic moment. But that was it. And I actually did go out. I went to rehab then November. I believed that addiction and alcoholism were not the same thing, despite what everybody was saying. I thought maybe it was the same thing for you. Maybe it was the same thing for this guy in my rehab. For me, they were different. I liked cocaine a lot. I didn't even really like drinking. I mean, who would when all it did was make you cry at that point in your life? So I was like, look, I will quit the cocaine. I will quit the Ambien. I'll quit the pain pills, but I don't have a problem with drinking. And so they said, well, it's all the same thing. I said, I'll go along with that because you're very nice people. Mm-hmm. And like, why not? Mm-hmm. And then
this is at the rehab center, you're saying?
And then 12-step meetings. And I got a sponsor and I did all of the stuff, but it was slowly occurring to me that these people were wrong. November 18th, I went out and I decided to experiment with this by having a glass of wine, followed that with another glass of wine, followed that with more. And by November 19th of 2000, I had had 2 bottles of wine and 4.5 hits of ecstasy. And that's when I went back. And so I've been sober since then, which was November 19th of 2000.
Wow. So it sounds like such a surrender moment where you just were like, clearly they were right, that it is the same thing, that all addiction, it all comes from the same place, right? And
well, I'll tell you, the surrender was, oh, I get it. Because people would always go, well, alcohol's a gateway drug. And I was like, not for me, because I would buy Coke in the morning. I didn't need to be drunk to buy Coke. I only drank to kind of come down. So I never saw the gateway drug thing. And then I knew I wouldn't have done the 4.5 hits of ecstasy if I hadn't drank. So I was like, oh, gateway. Okay, I get it. And then maybe I was sober a year or so and I was like, wait, I'm a total alcoholic. I drove drunk all the time. That wasn't like a one-time thing. I never went out to have a glass of wine. That just wasn't my thing. So that epiphany was slower and I don't know when it happened,
mm-hmm. So then walk us through, how does Anna David become the Anna David that we know today? So you go through rehab, and then how old are you when you come out of rehab, and then what do you do next?
Well, I just did outpatient, which is important because they always say it doesn't work. Whatever works if you're ready for it, Mm-hmm. But to be respectful of that, today people who are addicted to opiates, 90 days of treatment is a recommended beginning. I was not addicted to opiates, so that worked for me. And I I'd been fired from every job I'd ever had. I continued to be fired from almost every job in recovery. So that is not something I've solved.
Can I ask, what are you being fired for?
Attitude. usually. I was fired from People magazine before I got sober, and the character in Party Girl works there, but like I was screwing up a lot. I was like going to events and like quoting like serious celebrity Democrats and accidentally mixing their quotes up with serious celebrity Republicans and putting those in People magazine, like bad mistakes, you know. But in recovery, I have worked for the most insane people. I wrote a book for I don't know. I wrote a book for an actor, and that's the New York Times bestseller, where if I showed up and he was not in a good mood and I asked him a question, how much can I swear? I mean, I can't even
go for it.
I would say, hey, can we talk today? Blah, blah, blah. And he'd go, fuck you, you dumb cunt. You're stupider than I thought. Wow. So that way of talking to me, because I've worked for a lot of people who own treatment centers. I've worked for a lot of active alcoholics. What he said to me was not that bad compared to what I was hearing from other bosses. And, you know, my most recent job I was fired from was the editor-in-chief of In Recovery magazine. It was being run out of a prison. And the prisoner, the owner's cellmate wanted me to write a introduction for his book. And when I said no, they called me a plagiarist and fired me. So it's like, yes, I've been fired. Yes, it's for my attitude, but it's all part of a bigger story. And so I don't know why my lesson in life has been, I don't date abusive men ever, but I sure have worked for my dad over and over and over again.
Yeah, I was just going to say, do you think, you know, it sounded like a lot of this sort of started from a very young age with the experience that you had with your dad?
Yeah. I mean, my dad's not nearly as bad as some of these people. My dad never would talk to me that way. My dad's ill. He's not, I mean, these people are horrible. So yeah, for a long time, I assumed I had to put up with that. And I remember going to my therapist and saying, you know, today when he called me a dumb cunt, I didn't even cry. And she goes, well, that's great. Now let's work on getting you a job where you aren't spoken to that way. And you know, I was so resistant to working for myself because I thought that I needed the reliability, the paycheck every 2 weeks, and that In Recovery job was the last one that was taken from me. And like, I've never done better in my career because it was like I was already working for myself. And that was a huge problem I had with some of the people who ran some of the websites I was working for. Was they were like, I'm paying you, but you're actually promoting yourself, which wasn't untrue. So it was like I was still doing the work for them, but like, yeah, it was about me, a lot of it. And they didn't like that. They wanted it to be about them. And I don't blame them because it was their money. So I, you know, sort of had no choice about a year ago to just sort of be like, okay, well, these things I'm sort of doing, these coaching programs, these storytelling shows, these podcasts, let's really do them. Let's like drill down. And that's been a business, and it's been a billion times more gratifying than working for these crazies.
Oh my gosh, congratulations for taking that leap. It is no small feat to decide that, you know, you are no longer going to be working for somebody else, that you have to rely just on yourself. It is not easy. It is not for the faint of heart, but neither is recovery. Neither is getting sober. So I think that so many of us in recovery are really well suited for this. So I think it's no surprise that you are able to support and help. So, you know, 99.9% of your clients that come through to you are people in recovery looking to take their story and share it with other people, whether or not it becomes a business for them or if they become entrepreneurial in that way, but just as a way to say, hey, this is something I can do for myself. And it's incredible that you're providing people with that platform and that ability and that knowledge that all of us are just wondering, how do we do it? I mean, I self-published my book, and it was something that I just chose to do on my own. I didn't necessarily know how many people were going to read it. And I'm thrilled when people do end up, you know, falling into it. But there is a big difference between self-publishing and going through, you know, the protocol that you're talking about through your coaching. It's awesome.
That being said, I'm a huge fan of self-publishing. I think it may be what I do from now on. Like I said, with Party Girl, I'm gonna self-publish it if I get the rights back.
Awesome.
But it really is about finding our audience, because then you can self-publish, you can have someone else, you know, But yeah, but I will tell you, let's just like most things, I didn't choose, like I was out of options. You know, they say recovery is like the last door on the block. Working for myself was the last idea I had.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I get it. It's like, 6 months, not even that, about 6 months ago, I finally gave up this part-time job that I had on the side. It was just, really nice to have this extra cash all the time. And finally walking away from that, it's been really liberating to really, it's scary, but it's really liberating to finally just rely on my own gifts and my own talents and the stories and the message that I want to share in the world. So I totally relate to that. It's not for the faint of heart, but it can be the most rewarding work that we ever do. So congratulations. It's amazing.
you too, girl.
Thank you so much. This has been truly a pleasure. I have loved chatting with you. I love learning a bit more about your story and the coaching that you're doing. I want to know, you've mentioned therapy, obviously writing are big tools for you. What other tools are in your toolbox when it comes to staying sober and feeling happy in your life? Because there's one thing about not drinking or not using, but we also have to build in all of these other things so that we're actually living a life that we love to live.
Yeah, I mean, meditation is a huge one for me. I learned a version of Transcendental Meditation when I was like 3 years sober. I've actually switched it up, and now I'm doing a different form of, like in the last 3 weeks. Like I've been doing it for 10 years, and now I met this guru, this guy Sadhguru, and he's got an app, and I'm doing his meditations. He's got this Isha Kriya, is this meditation, and it involves, I listen to it on my app, and it involves breathing in, I am not my body. Breathing out, I am not even my mind. I am not my mind. I'm not even my body. Maybe it goes that way. Then you chant, and then he's got these loving kindness meditations. So that's a whole. I don't care how I meditate. I need it.
I love it too. Tell us, what is this? What is the app? Is that Insight Timer, or is it?
No, it's called Sadhguru. It's Sadghuru. He is a man. He lives in India. I happened to be invited to a party for him like a month and a half ago. I didn't know who he was. People were like, "Oh my God." They were trying to get him to come on my podcast. I was terribly confused, frankly, but I met a woman there, and she invited me to her house to do meditation. So I was like, Guru Sad? Like I didn't understand what was happening. And then she told me about the app, downloaded the app, and it's the meditation I've been doing. So, it's weird. I exercise a lot. I need that because honestly, what I've realized is that it's the breathing. I really need cardio because I don't take deep breaths. I take shallow breaths. And like, if I'm on a spinning bike and I'm sad, when I go in, I walk out feeling different,
So other than spinning, what exercise do you like to do?
I do dance. I do hip hop dance class.
Awesome.
Not afraid to send you a video of it. Like I'm pretty into it. And I do like, all the LA girl things. Like I do cardio bar, all the bar classes. There's really weird workouts I do, like this thing called GST, which is like stretching and elongating. So I'm a class pass, whatever's showing up. But I also have just started doing breathing workshops. Have you ever done those?
I've practiced breathing with a coach, but tell us more.
Well, I don't know if you did this kind, but it's like you breathe, it's like stomach, chest out. Yes. Is that what you did?
Well, it's like the notion behind it is that if you are breathing vertically, you are not properly breathing. It has to be pushing out the belly and pulling it in and almost squeezing it like a sponge.
Yeah. Yes, they didn't say those words, but I bet it's kind of the same thing. So I've now been to about 5 of them, and it is insane. I mean, I bet you they have it where you are, but you lie down and you do 45 minutes of stomach, chest out, and then 15 minutes of like, if you ever liked getting high, well, let me tell you, that's as close as I've ever been to high. It's crazy.
Wow.
Like, so those are super new, this Sadhguru, this breathing business. I do a lot of hiking and outdoor stuff. I love this. The sun is kind of my higher power a little bit, which is why Los Angeles is an important place for me to live.
So amazing. And I know we're in a culture right now that's, all against the sun, and we're all pro sunscreen, but really for people watching, I mean, we need some of that sun. Get out there. We need our vitamin D. We need to get our high from the sun a little bit. So yes, of course, protect your skin, but man, being in the sunshine, there's nothing like it to boost a mood.
And by the way, I was a few years ago vitamin D deficient because of all my sunblock.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with it.
Wow. And living in California.
Yeah. I had to take vitamin D because my sunblock was so good at not getting vitamin D into me.
Yeah, I mean, I recommend vitamin D to all of my clients, and because, and I say get your blood work done, but 99.9 of us are deficient because of sunscreen, because of all the clothes that we wear, especially I live in Canada. So a lot of the year we are not in shorts and t-shirts. I'm so, surprised to hear that it's coming from you too.
Listen, I got some good block, girl.
Seriously. No wonder your skin looks so incredible.
I'm obsessed with keeping this together as long as I can,
Why not?
Why
What's
not?
the alternative? Letting it all go? Forget that. No way. Especially when we've decided to change our lives and get sober. Let's just live the rest of the years that we have as vibrantly and beautifully as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Right, is there anything else in your toolbox you can share? Or was that it? That seems like a lot.
It's a lot. Oh, I go to meetings. I go to meetings and I sponsor because I'm incredibly self-obsessed, and it is the only way. I should volunteer more. I don't, but truly, I heard this thing in a meeting the other night that was make your life's purpose to help everyone else get exactly what they want. And it sounds like cheesy and normal AA. And then they also said, if you let someone in traffic, they can never cut you off. And I heard this Tuesday night. So I just had yesterday of letting people in traffic, focusing on helping them get what they want. And it's like, if I could remember that. And he also said, everything's going to turn out so much better than you think it is, which obviously we hear that. And I don't know, do you do 12-step?
I don't do 12-step, but I'm open to it. I have the big book. I have sort of gone through the steps a little bit on my own time, but I don't do 12-step meetings. No.
So none of these things will sound as cliched to you as they do to me, but yeah, I need them. I don't understand why, but I am a different person when I'm going to meetings all the time. I'm just, the chatter has calmed down.
It's so important to quiet down that chatter. Oh my gosh, no matter how we do it. I'm a part of a lot of recovery groups, and I love doing this and having these awesome conversations and just spending as much time as I can talking with people in recovery. It's just so enriching to my life. It's definitely part of my toolbox for sure.
Right.
Tell me, Anna David, what is the best thing about being clean and sober?
Well, the best thing is that I'm actually out there in the world dealing with how I really feel. And our only purpose here, I believe, is to learn certain lessons and to grow, and before I got sober, I'd struggled with depression, and there was no purpose for it. Now, when I'm going through something, there is a lesson I'm learning. There's something I need to get to that my higher power or this universe wants me to be on earth to figure out. I don't know why I had to have a mentally ill dad. I guess that's part of my journey. I don't know why people have to suffer so much more than I have. That's not something that I can explain, except that we're here to learn certain things. And I was incapable of learning anything. I was incapable of getting Kenny G's quote right when I was not sober. I was certainly incapable of learning whatever lesson I was supposed to learn from the universe.
Understood. Can I ask, just because you've mentioned it a couple of times, are you medicated for depression? Is this something that you continuously work on?
Yeah.
Is this something that you've overcome? Talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love to go into specifics, but I am definitely medicated for it. I am a huge believer in medication for it. I think that, I used to shame myself so much for it. And then I realized there are people out there who I think are so together because they're not taking SSRIs, and then I look at how their lives blow up or how they deal with confrontation and fear, and I'm like, oh, here I've been telling myself I'm so much worse than them because I need to take this, and the truth is I'm not better. We just all have the same stuff going on, and this is how I'm choosing to deal with mine.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a great message for anybody watching right now, that there is a lot of conversation about, medication versus, using more holistic or natural methods. But you're listening to Anna David talk about the fact that she exercises, she's breathing, she's seeing a therapist, you're doing all of these other things, and you also take medication to manage your symptoms. So no shame, fuck shame.
Exactly. I'll take anything you'll give me. Yeah. If you tell me it's going to make me feel better, why not add that? My diet, you won't like this. My diet is not great. I know if I cleaned up my diet, I could feel better, but I'm not. It's not horrible, but it's not great.
I would love to see your diet. I'd love to see what you eat in a day, and I'm pretty
You
sure
wouldn't love it.
All right, we won't go into it. My last question for you today. I'm borrowing it from Oprah, so I know you've heard this one before. But Anna David, what do you know for sure? I love saying your full name. What do you know for sure?
I've never knew that Oprah asked that. I've never seen Oprah. Wow, that's actually a really hard question. What do I know for sure? I know for sure that nothing is as bad as I say it is, and nothing is as good as I say it is. I do not like the middle. And yet that's where most of life lies. This is what I work on in therapy, is like everything is the best or the worst, or she's the best or he's the worst. And nothing is as bad or as good as I tell myself it is.
Brilliant. Excellent advice. Thank you so much for this time. I've loved every moment with you. For people looking to reach you and get connected with you, where are the best places to find you?
Well, you can find me on social media. I'm at Anna B. David on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Lighthustler.com is the hub for everything. And then alltherightmoves.net is where you can find out about my coaching program for writers. But I'm pretty accessible, kind of everywhere.
Fantastic. Thank you again for your time, Anna. Have an amazing day. Go and breathe, go and meditate, go and do what you're going to do. But just no matter what, please know how grateful I am to have you with me today.
I am so grateful to you. This was such a lovely conversation, and I'm so glad we did it. So thank you.
Me too. Thank you.
To get access to all of the free videos and interviews, visit sobrietystartshere.com.